Coming up next, we're going to preview Ismael Bonfim versus Vinc Pichel. Before we do that, I just want to mention, I know you may have noticed that we are skipping over the Elvis Brenner fight as his opponent is no longer going to be fighting. He now is taking on Kainan Kraszewski. I probably got close on that one. Apologies if I did not. Esteban Ribovic dropped out literally last night as we were prepping. So unfortunately, we've not had enough time to really get this one right and present it to you guys with the sufficient research that we try to do for every single fight when we put it on the pod. So if we end up having a play on this fight, when we research it later, we'll definitely tweet it out. Again, make sure to follow us at AndyHH Sports, at RickHH Sports, and at HH Sports HQ. But for now, we will go ahead and jump into the main card with the first of the Bonfim brothers taking on Vinc Pichel. Rick, what do you see with this one?
I think it's an interesting one. I think you've got Bonfim, who both Bonfim brothers have come in with a ton of hype, and obviously Ismael is up to minus 465 on my book, but and he's up to minus 500 in other books as well. So I mean, he's continuing to grow, but it's an interesting fight. Vinc Pichel has been around the UFC for a long time. He's 7-3 in the UFC and has had sustained success. He's continuing to beat solid fighters, not great fighters. I think his best win, in my opinion, to date is Jim Miller, which, I mean, is a respectable fighter. Everyone loves Jim Miller if you've been around the sport for a while. And Roosevelt Roberts, who ended up leaving the UFC. So his opponents have not been great, and he's only fought once in the past now 26 months. So, and that one fight was a loss to Mark Madston, who's just a wrestler by trade. So it's an interesting fight. He's got a different, more fun opponent in Bonfim, who's a boxer by trade. He's got a 24-3 amateur boxing record, and he's fast. I mean, he's lightning fast, and that's an issue for a guy like Pichel, who's getting up there in age. I say getting up there. I mean, he's at the big 4-0 now. He's up to 40, and he hasn't fought now. And as I said, now he's since that loss. Since that loss, he hasn't fought now in over 18 months. So I really struggle to see how he's going to deal with some of that boxing, but he could use his offensive wrestling to be able to get it to the ground. Now, I don't know if that's the best way to go. Bonfim himself, though he's a boxer, does have some good submissions, but he should be able to use his speed on the feet to land more powerful boxing. And I think that because of that, he's going to end up pulling out here, and that's why he's such a big favorite. I mean, this feels like a big get back on the right track after a loss to Benoit Saint Denis. For him to just go in and cement himself back in the UFC and back in the limelight near his brother.
Yeah, Pichel is just such a forgotten about UFC veteran because he's been around for a long time, but I mean, the 7-3 UFC record doesn't really reflect that for someone that has been with the promotion for a minute now. I'm with you. I really like Bonfim here. It just sucks that it's become to the point where it's so unaffordable to bet on this fight when you're just wanting to take one side. For me, I do think that this is going to be that get right spot for him. He does leave some of those big holes when he's moving forward. However, the speed is what's going to catch the old man here, unfortunately. I mean, it is what it is. The speed is what's going to fly off the TV as soon as you see this fight. And that's what we love about the Bonfim brothers as a whole. And that's especially what I love about Ismael, where the speed for him is what's going to make the difference, because I don't think that he's going to use the submission game as much as you would expect him to in this bout. He's going to try to land a lot more damage, especially with how rowdy this home crowd's going to be as this kind of opens up the main card. Have you found any angles that you're able to bet this one? Because for me, even though I'd love to back and put some money on Ismael here, I can't justify it, man. It's too big. He's too big of a favorite, and you'd have to really get cheeky with how you bet it, in my opinion.
No, I don't have anything that I'm currently on. I might end up going on a Bonfim inside the distance. I know how chalky that is, or an under, just because of Pichel's age and his time away from the octagon. I don't know where Pichel's head's going to be at here. I mean, you're 40 years old. If you win this, where do you go? You're 8-3 in the UFC. You're 1-1 in your last two with a loss to Mark Madston. How much more do you have in your tank? Are you going to make where are you going towards? And I think that this just sets up for a Bonfim to get back on track. I think it is interesting that Bonfim's two losses come to Benoit Saint Denis, and then the other in 2014 to Renato Moicano in the first round of Jungle Fight 71 by rear naked choke. So His 2 losses have come by submission. He's got 2 more, but they were 2011. Those were 2 of his first fights. And I sort of discredit those. But he's got a lot of first-round finishes, too. I think that Vinc Pichel could fall on his sword here. He has a famous quote where he goes, finish or get fucked. So I think that Pichel's either going to get finished or he's going to fuck him up. So give me the under. I'll throw it officially now that I'm talking about it and getting hyped up about it. But both of us go Pichel. Not Pichel. We do not go Pichel. I think both of us go Bonfim. I'll take the under at -130 at 2.5. And we will see you on the next fight.